Nina.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I am good. Look at you with that background.
Ooh, yeah, right. Isn't it fun? We're going to
Where are where
enter.
are you?
I'm in some tropical area where if I could swim, I would be diving off the rocks, near the
Hmm.
waterfalls, with my logo all over the place.
That's fantastic. Hi, Gracie. So, back in, what was it? 2012, I guess it was. I decided to finally just take that leap. So I went to California and I did like a trial out here, but I knew that I wasn't going to be going back anytime soon.
Right.
So it was just me and my little puggle, Lola P. We headed out here, landed in LA, and I still had my clients and I was still doing what I was doing. So I was like I always talk about like in order for change to occur, you have to change something, right? Change doesn't just happen. So
Right.
start small. So, well, small me move, right? No, but I still kept my job is what I'm saying, right?
Right.
As a consultant. So yeah, I was still doing the same thing, but I was in a different location.
Mm.
And that actually helped me to take space and really create like clarity around what I wanted. And also what I didn't want any longer, which was really important to figure out, right? What you don't want. So I started taking just little steps of like doing things differently. And fast forward to almost 6 years later, 5 years, I started to change it up. And I knew that I wanted to help others really identify their limiting beliefs and their fears in order to move forward, right? And really create the life that they've craved since I can honestly say I am like where I wanted to be since I was a child.
Wow.
Like location, a loving marriage, um, like doing a job that doesn't feel like a job that I actually truly get up on Mondays and like look forward to, right?
That's what you call doing, that's what you call a career. Because when you have a passion for what you do, it's not work.
Right. And obviously, like there are the working aspects of it, like the
Absolutely.
annoying little things that come along with it
Right.
that you do have to do in the background, right?
Right.
But for the most part, a big thing for me was aligning with what's for my greater good. And
Mm.
like this was not even a concept that I even was aware of 8, 10, 15 years ago, my greater good, right? You do something because this is what you're supposed to do. You
Right.
go to college for a certain degree, you're supposed to utilize that degree
Hmm.
and you're supposed to go down this path, right? Of whether your parents or society,
Hmm.
think is the mold that you should be,
Right.
right? And so this is what I did. And I just knew that I was not aligned with internally with myself.
Right.
So, I mean, the thing for me was, and for, I would say about 10, 12 years, I really did love my career.
Right.
But I was finding that the parts that I loved the most was the connections with people
Mm.
and inspiring and sharing personal stories and being vulnerable
Mm.
and sharing my experiences with things that may haven't gone right in the past, but I did learn from it. And
Mhm.
then I developed best practices based on those experiences and like helping people realize that it's okay to make mistakes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's an opportunity to learn and grow through every single experience. And all experiences are comprised of good things and unpleasant things, right? It's our outlook and our mindset that's going to determine what the outcome is going to be.
That's right.
And so once I had the space to understand this, I just had this like crazy passion to learn more about emotional intelligence and mindfulness and practice gratitude on a daily basis.
Oh,
It's like simple things, right?
right.
Um, and, I'm not like big into law of attraction stuff. I know people they specialize in that, but it's the same concept. Like, don't think about the things that you're afraid of because then you're putting out there these negative aspects,
Oh, I'm a firm believer of that. I
right?
truly believe in putting positive energies out there. it's good to be optimistic, but it's also good to be a realistic person too.
Right.
But
Right.
you have to put out positive energies for what you are trying to accomplish in
Right.
order for the positive to come back to you. If you're
Right.
going to be negative and throw that out there, then you're going to get what you put out there in the universe, sort of.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so it was these simple things like, I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
This is when like it first like triggered in my mind, like I need to stop doing things the way that I was doing them. So like when you get up in the morning and you either stub your toe or you spill the water that's beside your table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your friend or someone texts you, how are you? Or have a great day.
Right.
Like I caught myself saying, oh my God, I just spilled the water and already I'm off to and then all of a sudden I literally did backspace and deleted it all. And I said, all good, have a great day. Talk to you tonight.
That's right.
And you just like let it go, because the more than you're putting it out there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's that simple little like thing that I now try to apply to every single aspect in my life, right, from business to personal and everything in between.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And at the same time, and that's a practice. There was another colleague of mine whose virtual event I attended. And she was doing a presentation where she was talking about creating positive habits for ourselves. Because if you create these positive habits for yourself, it's going to help you achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve. And some of the things that she was pointing out was practicing to do things like what you just mentioned, practicing saying, oh, I'm having a great day. That was just one incident. That was just one incident in the whole day. So if you turn around and say, oh God, I spilled this water, I'm ticked off, now my rug is ruined or whatever, it's on my foot, I got to dry it off or whatever. Now you set the tone for your whole day, the rest of your day. And my day is starting off just fantastic. So, okay, now you just accepted and embraced all the negativity to come in your way. And guess what? Those are the things you're going to home in on. Everything that you feel as though in your mind has gone wrong and stuff, instead of looking at the positive of everything that's happening in your day. Even the wrong that happens in our day serves us purpose.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely. And there's always gratitude. There's always something to be grateful for. I'll share this. My mom, she passed away at 50. And I was in my my mid to late 20s. And I was an only child. She was my absolute best friend. Yeah, it was really, 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 really difficult.
Yeah.
But I have to say the 10 months that we had together while she was in treatment, right? First of all, it felt like a lifetime. And then like looking back years later, it's like, people would say like, oh, did you have her long? And I'm like, yeah. Meanwhile, it was only 10 months.
Right.
But I share this because first of all, I never imagined that we could have gotten any closer than we already were. Right. But I just got goosebumps, but she was the pillar of being on the bright side and positivity, and selflessness. And I think back to those times where we were together and there was so much beauty that was created together between the two of us during those horrific, it was horrific, right? Like chemo, radiation, 21 blood transfusions, like horrific. But her positive spirit, it was like she was always concerned about everyone else around her. I'm okay. Like, I want to make sure you're okay, right? So I think about those times, and when I do get like a little struggling on something or maybe feeling I'm going to get stuck, I think of my mom, and I think about like how she was during what I perceive to be the scariest thing you could ever go through in life.
Absolutely.
Facing a terminal illness and then dying. Like,
absolutely.
To me, there's nothing, worse in my personal experience and opinion. And I hold on to that. So I often share this with my clients, and I like to remind them that, for every negative thing that's going on, try to pull out or point out 3 positives. I bet you can. You think that you can't, right? But it's like training any muscle. If you're going to be, training for a marathon, you have to work at it, right? So going back to what you're saying of that other woman who was talking about creating positive habits, it's so important to do that because you have to practice it.
Yeah.
It's been a journey for me for 8 years to sit where I'm sitting right now and to approach things in a calm manner and to stop. I always say stop, zoom out, and refocus, right? And respond rather than react.
Right.
And, once you have the main thing with everything is awareness.
Yeah.
So it's like to stop and be aware. And, whether it's at work or at home with your family, like having an understanding of taking like a beat or a timeout of when people are reacting a certain way, right? I used to take everything so personal. I'm a very sensitive, empathic person, right? And now I take a step back, and it's not like I put on a thicker skin or a shield. It's not that. It's perspective. And I give them an opportunity. Okay, you know what? It's not about me. They're either going through something personal at home or they're just stressed. They're not dealing with it, but it doesn't give them the right to treat me a certain way. So then that's where I opt in with setting a healthy boundary, right? So there's all of these things that, once you start increasing your awareness around mindset and how powerful it really is, it goes right into the next thing, right? So it's like, awareness, perspective, responding, changing outcomes. So it's been this amazing process for me. And that's why, like, when I say, I just want to share this with everyone, not for free, of course, I do want to make money and need to make money.
Absolutely.
Right. But, I'm not doing this from that. That's not the driving force for me.
Right.
It's more about, trying to honestly make, the business world and this world in general a better place. Things don't have to be as crazy and as difficult as some things are. And for me, it's all about awareness and perspective and being open and tapping into, like, what is that fear?
Right.
Any negative response or reaction is fear-based. So it's like, if we can all just like understand that and realize that and not be so defensive and so aggressive, right? It just doesn't have to be like this. So I will share a funny little.
You mentioned earlier in your storyline about awareness, and it's very important for you to be aware of, the things that are happening to you, but it's also equally as important for us to be aware of ourselves. We need to take ownership, identify who we are, and that's the flaws as well as the fantasticness about it.
Right.
And make sure that we're always doing self-development for us. And that's for our work as well as our personal life. Make sure we are at the best that we can be as a person, a co-worker, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, a boss, whatever your title. And we all have multiple labels in our lives because we're living in everyday lives and stuff. But it's important for us to continue to always work on us. And we can't do that if we're not being honest with ourselves. And sometimes what helps us to be honest with ourselves is being able to take constructive criticism, being able to receive what we are hearing in certain programs or like, for example, everybody's doing virtual events and everybody's talking about this and that and another, and some of them are overlapping each other and sound like a repeat of something, but the deliveries are different, and so forth. Take that ownership. If you hear something that resonates with you personally, as embarrassing it may feel, you don't have to raise your hand and say, yeah, you know what, I feel as though I can relate to that. It applies to me in this way and that way. You don't have to necessarily do that, but you do need to take ownership of it and turn around and say, you know what, maybe I should apply that to myself and
Right.
and do things a little differently or better or whatever the case may be. So we have to we have to have that awareness of us as well as our surroundings, and then the
Oh yeah,
perspective
absolutely.
of things and stuff. And life can be such a better place. You know,
Oh,
I don't mind having a difference of opinion with people. It's just a matter of respecting each other's opinions and point of view,
totally.
and then also keeping your mind open to that person's perspective, whether you still disagree or not.
Right.
Keeping your mind and being able to see it from that point of view of that individual that they're pointing out to you.
But it's interesting you bring up self-awareness. I was just running a workshop yesterday,
Uh-huh.
um, and the heart of it was awareness leading into self-awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's important. I run this exercise that, you have an opportunity to see some things in yourself, right? That you see in yourself. And then
Right.
you ask your partner to see what they see in you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a really good opportunity to see and hear some attributes that you may not be aware of, right?
Right.
Or some blind spots that you might have. And like you were saying, like, we are not perfect. No one is perfect.
No.
So it takes great strength to go within and to embrace all of you,
That's
right? And to break down. And that's honestly, that's what I did 8 years ago. It was so hard. This was not an easy process by any means, but I had the desire to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew that my life would change if I went within. And I worked on the things that I really wanted to improve. Like, I was not a patient person at all. At all. That was one thing I needed to work on, was patience. And I think I'm like 75% better, which is huge.
That's
Absolutely
great.
huge. Right. And being a young woman in the position, in the role that I was in my previous career, starting out, I was an executive producer by 30. And I had like a chip on my shoulder because I felt like I constantly had to prove myself to new people that I would meet. Like, I'm in this role, I know, and then I looked younger.
Yeah.
So, it was like this thing that I needed to prove to people, right? When they would see that I knew what I was doing once they started to work with me and I was, supposed to be in that role. But that's something I realized in myself, right? That I had a chip on my shoulder at times, not all the time.
Right.
And sometimes I would get defensive, or, if a person, you're in like production meeting planning,
Mm-hmm.
it could be really cutthroat at times. It could be,
Oh,
I'm being nice. I'm being nice. And there were times where, my God, I would go back at people. And even clients, I had one client that was yelling so hard in my face, she was crying.
wow.
And I know, and it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And so, I would just say, I don't know what to say. And she said, you keep saying that. I'm like, because I don't know what to say to this behavior. Right. And it was like in those moments where I realized I don't need to go back at people and like invest in the crazy, and like keep it going. Instead, one of the greatest things that I realized about myself as a leader is that kindness is not a sign of weakness.
No, it's not.
Taking a beat before you speak is not a sign that you don't know what you're saying.
I love that you said that. Love it. Because I actually admire the professionals in whatever field they're in that can take a beating and still remain positive and polite and professional. Because for me, we all have those moments. None of us are perfect. And for me, that actually calms me down. When I see someone taking the beating of my behavior, they are staying on track with their demeanor and they're being still instead of being condescending, they're still trying to accommodate and offer the best customer service they possibly can.
Right.
That actually gives me a aha moment, and then it calms me down, and then the volume of my voice goes down, the tone of my words are changed and shifted, and then I turn around, I can hear them better, and then I can articulate my needs even better, because this is all the things that we go through when we're heated up and angry. And then after that, I feel compelled to not only apologize to them, but also thank you for their help and acknowledge how well they handled me.
Yeah.
This is the honest God truth, Alzana.
Yeah.
This is the honest God truth. This is exactly what I go through when I have those bad moments.
Right.
Because we all experience it. And
when you're in that pressure cooker.
Yes. Yeah. And because when you own, so I don't know if you know this, but I own 3 businesses. So I own 3 companies. And especially these days with us going through the COVID-19 situation, I have a lot of people I have to take care of. I have a lot of people I need to be concerned about to make sure that I can hold on to their jobs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How to pivot with all of them, how to alter things, spending money left and right when very little is coming in. And that money being spent is towards marketing and all this kind of stuff. But I also took on, just recently, 2 leadership roles. So now my responsibility has increased. Then I turned around and decided to give back to the business community by doing certain programs like this, that is all about the business community. We don't gain from it. In fact, that's more expenses going out the company for me to do these 3 different programs. And then I turned around as a result to the outcome of these 3 programs that we're doing to help out with the business community. Now it has pushed me in a direction to become a public speaker and to be able to use that soapbox as an opportunity to target a broader audience for my support as towards women and young people for their development, whether it's career or personally. So think about all that pressure. So every so often, I become impatient.
Right.
I become impatient.
I wonder why.
Yes, I become very impatient on things that are breaking down. If I have technical issues, if I have some kind of problem where I have to call and troubleshoot something, and my knees are shaking. I'm going, come on. Time is precious for me. But it's not fair to them. It's not fair to them that I'm behaving this way. So when someone takes that approach that you described, taking a beating, there's nothing wrong with taking a beating and being kind.
Right.
It helps me to reflect on myself and then take the necessary approach as I described earlier with them.
Right. By utilizing your self-awareness.
Yes.
Now, that's amazing, but there's also something to be said about, and not browbeating or being rude or condescending to your teams, right?
Right.
But when they are going through something that's difficult for them, it's giving them the opportunity to learn and grow.
Right.
And to adapt and to speak up for themselves, to set a healthy boundary. Mm-hmm. So it's great that, because that's something you want to work on, right?
Right.
But there's also an opportunity for the other person to work on their stuff as well. And that's the whole point of this. In every single interaction with everyone on any topic, we can choose to learn and grow from it, or we can choose to be defensive or arrogant or, stick our head in the sand. Yeah. It's up to us every single day what we're going to choose. Right. And, so change it up. I haven't really even gone through what that is. Right. So we provide professional and personal development through a mindful lens. Right. So I was able to take all of my experience in the corporate world with mostly pharmaceutical, healthcare, and automotive as well, companies to, I was working on large scale conferences and training. And I was able to take a step back and realize what I wanted to do. And I wanted to, at the time, this was 5 years ago, help women in leadership and with their personal life. So I decided to like become a life coach. Right. And I started doing that, but I was still getting pulled back into corporate. And I decided that I didn't want to compromise this new me that was always there, but I was hiding it, right? I want to be able to go back into corporate and share all of these great, amazing tools and mindset, way of thinking with corporate. So, excuse me, I started doing executive coaching and performance coaching, but every single thing was through mindfulness and emotional intelligence.
Right.
And I started to build up that part of the business. And my passion is still, I still keep some personal life coaching clients, mostly women. And I do love that because it also relates into career as well, because it's all connected. But these days, Change It Up Corporate, that part of the business is all about improving communication, engagement, and productivity through mindfulness.
Right.
And so, you know, the work I've been doing, everything is obviously virtual now, but it's all about how you can really change the trajectory of the business by the way that you think and behave.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, it's so simple, yet it's so hard to do, right. Especially when you are so overwhelmed and stressed, right? It's carving out that time. So I'm at the point where I am like absolutely obsessed with this, right. And my clients they're getting so much out of it.
Right.
And what's wonderful is nowadays, I don't know if the conferences or events you're doing is, people are more aware and understand the importance of mental well-being. And it's not like taboo to talk about anymore, and to bring it into more of a tactical, strategic way through emotional intelligence and how it relates to your technical skills. And how to really bridge that process and analytics and strategy with a growth mindset and become this 360-degree leader and collaborator and innovator.
I do agree that people are more aware of it from my experience.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing, people are more aware of it, but still not to the level I think they need to be. In fact, you may want to consider targeting, and this is just my opinion, you may want to consider targeting salespeople. You know, people.
Oh, I do. I have them. I'm working with them.
Oh, God, yeah. Because my company have a sales division and is very brand new to us. And it's a lot that I have to do as a business owner, as well as a piece of the talent for the company. So a couple of years ago, we decided to form a legitimate or formal sales team. And I had to run and play the role of sales director for last year. And it was too much. It was overwhelming for me as a business owner. My plans were to bring on board a sales director this year, and we were actually acting on it until COVID-19 hit. So I put that on the back burner. But dealing with so many salespeople where I gotta honestly say, unfortunately, the majority of them were not emotionally intelligently balanced. I understood and I empathized with where they were coming from, but from the perspective of a business owner, I need you to perform. I need to perform, or the sales department is a very, very key component of every.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not performing, the business doesn't exist.
Right.
You know, we don't exist. None of us gets to eat and stuff. And I understand that pressure that is on a sales team, especially an individual. So a emotional intelligence level is very crucial for a role like that. And if you are not able to meet certain criteria for a standard sales position, you should not be in the sales.
Right. And they're for their like analytics and their assessments now, they are finally adding the emotional intelligence aspect to it, which is so needed, right? And it's like there's some poll, I think it was 90 or 87% of like leaders polled said that they found to be soft skills, emotional intelligence to be more important than the technical skills.
I did last year. You know?
I agree 1,000%.
I added into the criteria for job. I mean, you call it recruiting for the recruiting process. Yeah. So now my next step is to bring a sales director on board first and let them bring the best talent on board. I did a hard job. I really did a horrible job trying to do it.
Well, you didn't do a horrible job. You weren't able to put 100% into that one aspect because you're spread into various pieces of the pie. That's the challenge. Yeah.
It was
that's the challenge.
Yeah.
But then having, knowing what our limitations are is another huge thing. And understanding that doesn't also mean a weakness or a failure.
That's right.
Right?
Doesn't.
So one of my clients had come to me, and this was actually before COVID, and she was working most of the time from home. And then sometimes she would have to go into the office, and she has kids. And so she was trying to figure out, well, how do I get this balance? Right. And so like my whole thing is we're never going to have full balance. Nothing, in my opinion, nothing will ever be like this. Well, let me say like this, right? It's always going to be doing this. And it's like, you think about a seesaw, right?
Yeah.
You're enjoying the ride. If we were just like this, if we found balance in life, we'd just be sitting at a bench, right? It's boring. So, the thing that I was saying to her is like, you need to understand what your own limitations are,
right?
What your own strengths are, right? Once you have that awareness, you could then commit to yourself that I am going to allocate 50% to my children. I'm going to allocate, 30% to my spouse, 20% to work, or switch it. Right. But know that when you're in that bucket or that piece of the pie, you put 100% of yourself into that allocated slot. So you're able to, put 100% into something, but it doesn't mean you're putting 100% into everything, because that's not possible.
It's not. And right? You know what, Nina? And that's what drives me crazy when people say, I give 110%. No, you don't. Number one, it's 100%, number one. And two, you can't give 100% of everything.
You cannot.
You just can't.
You cannot. But that's the thing too. I think old school way of thinking in management and in business was these unrealistic mandates that were set that over time have been changing and getting more realistic, but there's still some old school thought leaders out there, right? That are training their teams. And, in the worlds of personality colors, like very blue and very analytical.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I just learned the personality colors.
Are you yellow? Red and yellow.
No, that's what you guessed, huh? Was red and yellow? That's interesting. I want you to tell me why. But first, let me tell you this. We went over time, so I'm going to do some editing to this.
Oh, we did?
Yeah. Okay. So anywho, I am red and blue. Mostly red and a dash of blue. Why did you come up with red and yellow?
Oh my goodness.
Me.
I think you might be hiding yellow in there. Or not hiding yellow. You're yellow in the sense of you have a very large personality, right? And you get inspired and excited to share things. And I could also tell that you're very creative, and that's what yellow is about. But you need to be a red in your role of running a business.
That's right.
You also do have to have some aspects of blue, right? Because you have to be analytical. So, I mean, the purpose of like learning your color personality is what you have a propensity towards. But the goal is to really be all colors of the rainbow and learn to flex and grow, depending what the circumstance is and who the person that you're speaking to, so that you can both communicate in an area where that other person on the other end is going to be able to receive what you're saying. And
Right.
that's what's so good about knowing what your personality color is.
Absolutely.
When I did it years ago, I
Uh,
was a high red,
Ooh.
very, very red, right? Because
Uh-huh.
I was an executive producer. I had to, right?
Right.
But now I'm a yellow. And so my yellow was always there, but it was being suppressed by my red. And I found for me personally, that's where my imbalance was. And that's where my internal struggle has been.
Right. Right.
Because I wanted to be more yellow, but the roles that I was in wouldn't allow me to fully flourish and be a yellow. I created this role, I stepped into these shoes
Yeah.
and it worked for me up until a point. And the other thing to remember is it's so important that just because you start off a certain way and a certain personality, I hope that you're not going to stay that way forever.
Absolutely.
Right? We want to get as much learning and growing and changing and experiences as possible. So
Right.
now I'm a yellow, but the red comes out when it needs to come out. I'm still doing the business end of my business. So I have to be red in certain areas, but I allow the yellow, I allow the big ideas and the, looking to the bright side of things
Right.
to be the driving force rather than the flip side of it for me personally.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. The story and background, the purpose of the why you are in the business that you're in. So we have to bring you back. Thank you for
Okay.
being here today. And I look forward to having you again so that we can pick up this conversation another time. Of part
Sounds
two.
so good.
Don't
Have
go.
a great weekend.
You too.
Okay.
Sit tight.